Hey y'all, and welcome back to the studio. And today we are talking polymer clay. So I'm going to be honest, this is actually not my first time using polymer clay. I actually used it years and years ago for Halloween. This way before I started YouTube. But I used it for a Halloween project and I didn't have a very good experience with it the first time, so I decided why not give it a go again. So time for round 2 with polymer clay, and for this project I decided it's springtime, so what better project than to welcome in spring than beautiful. We're having a kitty cat cameo. This is Flash. Say hi. Hi. Hi, kitty. Say hi. So, cat cameo. So for this, I decided I was going to make some polymer clay flowers, and I decided to do lavender roses. So jumping into this, I of course went out and got every supply that I thought I would need for this project, including sculpting tools, tons and tons of different sculpting clays, polymer clays, anything that you can imagine that sculptors would use for polymer clay. I went out and got it. As you can kind of see in my background, there's a giant box. That is all of my clay stuff. So now I have it, and let me just say, spoilers, I very much enjoyed working with polymer clay this time. So for this, just jumping into it, I jumped into this full force, not really knowing how to do anything. I used some flower petal molds that came with leaves, and they had little cookie cutters and stuff for the petals so that you could get the right shapes and stuff. I got modeling wire. I got everything. I went out and bought just about everything you can imagine for this. So jumping into this project, I made my clay as pliable as possible. I used my what is it called? My roller for this. I used honestly, it's pasta maker. It's a pasta maker, but it's for clay. I should have just gotten a pasta maker, honestly. But I used that to flatten out the clay as much as possible before I moved on to using the molds for this. And because I'm reading your comments. I am reading your comments. I see where people are saying you need to slow your footage down. So this is real-time video footage of me actually working. Nothing has been sped up. This is just actual footage of me going at this project. So no time lapses here. It is all real-time footage. So, and I'm a lot slower at working, honestly. Time lapses, they make it look like I am just speeding through everything. I'm not. I'm not. This took multiple days to finish because, you know, I get tired and then I have other things I have to do. So this took me multiple days to actually finally finish this, even though it turned out to be a very simple project in the end. This took multiple days to do. Not gonna lie about that. So I'm not out here for hours on end in my studio. I am constantly just in and out of my studio all the time. I work like maybe an hour at most some days, and then 2 hours other days, 30 minutes sometimes, and then I come back another day and keep working. So we're not just all living in our studios. I'll let you in on that secret. We're not living in our studios. We take multiple days to finish projects. So anyways, I decided I was gonna make multiple different flowers, and I wanted to be a little bit whimsical. So I decided I was going to kind of marbleize some of my polymer clay to make some lighter colored petals, and then some were going to be darker. But then I started running into a tiny bit of an issue. One of my polymer clays, I don't know what it was. It was this very light purple, but for some reason, just coming straight out of the package, it was very crumbly and it did not want to blend with my other purple. I had a very dark purple and I wanted to incorporate this lighter purple into it, and no matter what I did, it was sticking to my roller. It would not blend. I don't know if it was just a bad batch, if I did something wrong, if it's just user error. I don't know. If you do polymer clay, let me know in the comments below. Has this happened to you? Because I was a little confused as to what was going on, but I continued on with this. I continued making flowers. I did finally manage to get it incorporated into my white clay. I used it in the darker purple clay, and I just used up as much of it as I could because I did not want it to go to waste. So also with this, I wanted to make my flowers like a little bit more defined. I actually saw on a Facebook reel how a polymer clay artist actually used her pan pastels to use for shading and stuff like that. And I thought, oh, well, that's a great idea. I'm gonna try that. So in the end, I think, again, user error, because I've never really worked with polymer clay. I've had one experience with it and it did not end very well. So this was very much jumping right back into it full force. And so I don't know if it was user error, but it didn't really make much of a difference, especially after I baked them, because with polymer clay, you have to bake it so it dries. After I baked it, it really didn't make much of a difference, honestly. It may have lightened some things a little bit, but it didn't make a big difference. Not in my opinion, but again, it could be user error. But all in all, I think this was a really fun project to work on. I think it turned out really well. But I will be honest with you, when I went to put this in the frame, because it is a shadow box frame, so you know, you have whatever you're putting into it and it has like a spacing in between, and then there is the glass on the outside, so it kind of looks like this. If you've never seen shadow boxes, here's the glass, here's the backing, it has that space in between. Word of advice: measure measure before you go and make clay flowers, because if you're like me, you didn't measure. And I messed up so bad. I thought it's like, oh, I'm gonna do this big pretty rose in the center, and then I'm gonna have all these flowers on the outside of it. It's gonna look so cool. It's gonna be 3D. It's gonna be so neat. And I did not measure. I didn't measure until it was too late. They were in the oven, they baked, and they were glued onto the backing, and I was putting them into the glass, and I broke 2 of my flowers, and I was so upset. I was so upset because it looks so pretty. It looks so pretty. And you can see it in the end footage right before it went into the bake, right before it baked and stuff. I had it all laid out how I wanted it to look. And then when you transition over to it in the shadow box, you can actually see the white flower cracked, and then my big purple rose in the center cracked in like 3 places. So measure. Cannot emphasize that enough. Make sure you are measuring everything before you go and make flowers, and then try to fit them in your shadow box like I did. But I still think they turned out really pretty. I still like how it turned out. It is now hanging up on my gallery wall in my house, and I'm still very happy with it, honestly. I am a bit disappointed that it cracked. Could I fix it? Probably, maybe. Do I feel like I should? You know, it's debatable, but I still really like how it turned out. I'm happy with how it came out in the end. And I can say for certain I will be doing a lot more projects with polymer clay. In fact, I have 2 projects in mind that I really want to do, and it involves making 3D art again. So you will have to stick around for that. If you want to see a video where I turn polymer clay into a 3D sculpture, let me know in the comments below if you want to see that video and what other projects you want to see me do with all this polymer clay, because this was really fun. I really enjoyed it. So now I have 2 new hobbies that I really enjoy. I love collaging, and now I really like polymer clay. So I may have to do a video where I combine the 2 of those. So we're gonna have to see. But anyway, that is all for me here in the studio today. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Bye, y'all.